Coming up on today's episode of the Money Pants podcast, what to do with satanic grandparents. Just kidding. Or maybe not. How gifts to your kids can totally upend your family system. What to do when people give your family and kids gifts. How to deal with them, whether it's friends, family, neighbors, coworkers, or grandparents. Why you should pay for free stuff that you get, even if it's only $1. Plus, ideas to implement this Christmas. All this and more, but first, the joke of the day.
I once asked my grandfather how he lived so long. He smiled and said, "I sprinkle a little gunpowder on my cereal every morning." I always thought that was a little weird, but he did live a long life and left a great legacy. A thriving career, a loving wife, 7 children, 16 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren, and a massive hole in the crematorium wall. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Money Pants podcast. We're your hosts, Hannah and Fontaine Judd, and we're the proud parents of 7 sons and 6 daughters, ranging in age from college student to toddler. We're both BYU graduates and the creators of Money Pants. Head on over to CaptainMoneyPants.com to learn more about what we do and what we're all about. We're on a mission to support families who are trying to raise hardworking kids and to combat the current trend of entitlement. Today's topic is, we really wanted to talk about our rich society in which we live. We kind of have overdone it when it comes to gift giving. I mean, when we were in LA, and it was the weirdest thing where, because their parents would have 1 or 2 kids, and they would have like the kid when they were like, after their career was well established. So they would get married when they're 40 and have a kid when they were 42. And that was kind of it. So they were, approaching 50 before they were having birthday parties. And both the husband and the wife would be, the guy would be an executive somewhere and the wife would be a producer somewhere. And they'd have, easily a healthy 6-figure income. And so they could just lavish their kids. And I remember one party, and it was like, yeah, well, for our kid's birthday party, we had Shamu. Where it was like, you got a whale for your kid's birthday party.
No, where people would honestly do extravagant stuff like that, like rent the zoo animals and have them in their backyard.
I wish that was an exaggeration, but there was actually a time where someone had done something just like that, where they had...
Oh, people were doing stuff like that all the time, where it was just, but it was like you had to outdo.
Yes, it was this mentality of not only outdoing your neighbors, but pretty much outdoing anybody who came to the party.
It was like a status thing.
And I wouldn't say we fell into that trap, but there was this mentality, not just in LA, but across the country where, and again, going back to maybe this is what parents want to do inherently, is we would give our kids a lot of gifts on Christmas. And it ended up, it quickly, within a couple of years, it became this negative, almost like a free-for-all. Christmas morning would come, and it was like unleashing the dogs to go feast on the piece of meat that's been left out for them and they haven't eaten for days. And it was just, shredding and tearing of paper and the kids yelling and fighting each other. And like, that was my gift.
They didn't even know who gave them the present, nor did they care.
There was no appreciation. And then I think you said it, was one year, one of the kids, Hannah, you said something like...
Oh, they said, "Oh, is this all?"
And you and I were like, okay.
Yeah, and they were fighting about their...
We're not doing this. We are not doing this anymore.
We looked at each other and we're like, we don't like this.
This is the antithesis of pretty much everything we're trying to teach our kids. Like, this
may be what people do, but I don't like it.
Well, no, and we noticed though, we've talked to so many families. Since then, we've talked to a lot of families, with the whole Money Pants thing, and we've discovered that we're not alone. We're not unique. This is not an isolated incident just in our family. This is a pretty common occurrence where kids, when they receive gifts, don't have any appreciation for them, don't show appreciation or respect, and it's an entitlement where, oh well, you should have given that to me because
it's Christmas, and it's mine,
and I deserve gifts, and it's like, okay, let's step back a bit. And so I remember you and I we talked about it, and we're like, okay, how can we change this? Well, first of all, let's limit what you and I give the kids. And so we did. We set a spending cap, and I think at the time it was like $50 per kid on Christmas. And we would, we would think about an appropriate gift, something that would really be meaningful to the kids.
Well, and one thing that influenced that is I was talking to an elderly woman at church, and she said, Christmas has really changed from when I was a kid. When I was a kid, you would get one present. And she goes, it wasn't something expensive. A lot of times it was something handmade, like a handmade doll or a handmade tissue, or I don't know. Like it wasn't at all what it's turned into.
Where grandma or grandpa had spent months sewing together a blanket or a quilt or a doll.
Something that they had made by hand. They actually hadn't gone and bought anything, and there was one gift. And that was pretty typical of the time. And so it's really morphed into something different than what it used to be.
Well, it's kind of morphed into this free-for-all, spending frenzy type, me mentality.
But also you feel the stress and when you go shopping at the store at that time where you see the stress on parents' faces where it's like, I don't actually have the money for this, but I've got to do this, or I'm going to disappoint my kids. And,
right, and there's that expectation.
And this expectation.
And this isn't about Christmas per se, but that's definitely one of the components of gifts that we wanted to talk about. And that's what influenced
us to go, you know what, let's do something different.
Well, and here was the problem, though, is we realized if you give your kids everything, first of all, what do they have left to work for? Like, if they have every possible toy and every possible game and every possible item of clothing and every possible thing, if they have everything, what do they have to work for? What incentive do they possibly have to work? So that was a big aha for us. We're like, oh, we're actually taking away our kids' motives to work by lavishing them all this stuff. But then we're also incentivizing them to be entitled, and we're also teaching them not to appreciate things. Like, it was just everything that we didn't want for our children. Mm-hmm. And so instead we would make thoughtful gifts. And I remember we would like things that we would give them things that kind of help them achieve their goals and their unique missions in life. So like I think one year didn't we give we got Superstar a sewing machine? Mm-hmm. We found was it used? No, it was someone was selling a used one, but it was really nice, and we bought it for her, and so she could do, because she liked making things. I think that was actually Tia. Was that Tia?
Yeah, Tia. We got her a sewing machine. So it developed her talents and creativity. She developed a skill for sewing that she wouldn't have otherwise. But so it was like a hobby and a talent and a practical skill that she developed. But then also,
I got really cool art supply sets for Ruby, like expensive, high quality stuff that we got for her.
Because we knew that was something that she wanted to develop and she wanted to move on ahead with. One time we set up a piano for someone, an electric piano, and it wasn't a very expensive electric piano, but they were able to then create music in GarageBand.
Right.
And learn how to do that. And so it wasn't just hey, here's a toy you can play with for a short time and then not.
No, they had meaning, but they were tailored to each one of our kids and their talents and what they were trying to do. And it meant more than if it were just...
It's a lot more satisfying if you can put more thought into the present and just focus on one. It actually makes that one present more...
Rather than the quantity.
Yeah, like, oh, you got 20 presents, but if you just focus on one meaningful present, it's not overdoing it.
And it makes it meaningful. And it eliminates that whole feeding frenzy, selfish me thing that we've noticed. But along those lines, it reminds me of that great scene from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe when Santa Claus shows up for the kids. I can't remember their name, Peter, Lucy, and whatever. Anyway, and Santa has his bag of presents, and you're thinking, what? Okay, this is just kind of weird. What's Santa giving them presents for? They're going against the White Witch, blah, blah, blah. Turns out, Santa reaches into his bag and he pulls out a sword and gives it to Peter. And he pulls out, I think, a bow and arrow for Lucy, and then some I can't remember, a shield or some...
They were all tools, pretty much.
They were all unique gifts tailored for each one of the kids, to help them in their unique missions that they were going to be accomplishing and to help them become who they were supposed to be, which was really a really cool moment.
Those have been the most satisfying gifts.
I thought that was a brilliant scene in the movie, just so you know.
Those have been the most satisfying gifts is when it's something that's tailored towards that child, and it's a tool that they can use to.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes,
but it really is.
It really is. And I mean, I'm not pretending that. Oh yeah, we're always prepared for birthdays, and I could do a lot.
No, we're not.
No, we're not. But this is
always prepared for birthdays. We're only a month late for the last one.
Yeah. So don't think that. Oh gosh, these people like, wow, they really like just have this all figured out. And yeah, you know what? This is what we're moving towards, and we found that it is a lot more satisfying, but we're kind of freeing ourselves from this weird society expectation that you're supposed to twice a year
lavish your
children with a smorgasbord of stuff. And it's not actually that great. And so we're giving you permission to go, yeah, I don't like that either. Yeah. And I'm not the only one.
Join the trend.
Yeah. So yeah, you're not alone.
That trend of commercialism and what did you call it? Materialism. Yeah, it's not good.
It doesn't leave a good feeling.
So, but then we wanted to talk about what if somebody else steps in and gifts your family or tries to gift your children. So you have all the control as parents, what gifts you give your children for Christmas and birthdays and other special occasions. But what if somebody else is gifting things to your family and your children?
There's the third party thing that's not completely in your control. What do you do with that?
And and that can include, friends, neighbors, relatives, and especially grandparents. Grandparents are notorious for gifting their grandchildren. That's what they do. And maybe they think that's their job, and it kind of feels like it,
Yeah, well, a lot of times they want to help out. They know that, you have a lot on your plate. You're trying to pay a mortgage. You're trying to get your career started.
No, Hannah. It's because they're old and they're trying to get into heaven.
Yeah, any of these reasons. So it's
maybe if I'm good to children, they'll let me in.
So
let's talk about that. Let's break it down a little bit.
Let's start with neighbors and friends.
So, for some reason, Hannah, people have always given us stuff. And I don't know if it's because, Tia was exceptionally cute and people would just give her stuff.
No, that was weird.
That was really weird. People would stop you on the street and hand you money because Tia was so cute. It was the weirdest thing.
And sometimes they would hand her money and she was only one. It was weird.
But that was the beginning. And it never stopped.
Granted, that was in Glendale, and there were a bunch of foreigners. Maybe that's like a foreigner thing, but
to this day, it hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
Where people have always given us stuff. Whether it was, they thought our kids were amazing, or they thought we were amazing, and like, wow, I really love what you're trying to do with these kids and raising them.
Or they felt sorry for us.
Or they felt sorry for us because we had so many kids. They're like, boy, you guys must just be starving and destitute and you need help. Or, anywhere in between, all these different myriads of reasons.
All sorts of motives.
People would always give us stuff. And, and sometimes they'd even say, would it offend you if I gave you this? And we're like, no. No, we'll take your couch. We'll take your extra clothing.
And a lot of times, even if I had the money, like the time of going out and shopping, I'm short on time.
Well, no, we ended up.
And so I always feel grateful when people are like, hey, I've got these nice hand-me-down clothes. I was just going to take them to Goodwill. Do you want to go through them first? Or... Well,
no, and we really quickly adopted a policy that we would never turn down free stuff.
Yeah. And so what I would say to them is I didn't want to guarantee... I didn't want them... I did have experiences where people were like, gave me stuff, and then later, months later, years later, goes, oh, can I have that back?
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
We're not doing that.
Anyway, so I always try to make it clear of, you know what? We'll go through this stuff, and what we can use, we'll take out. But if we can't use any of it, I'm going to find somebody else who can, or donate it. So don't worry, your stuff will go to use.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if we can't use it, we'll find.
Well, no, and the
who
cool
can.
thing is we would pretty much always upgrade. Like if we've received couches for some reason, a lot of couches over the years, and it was always we would upgrade. So someone would give us a couch, and hey, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. If we can't use it, we'll make sure that it goes to somebody else who can. We compare it to our current situation, and 9 times out of 10, it was an upgrade. And we would take our existing couch and either donate it or it would end up in the dump.
And
Some of them,
times I wondered, how did you sit on this couch for that many years? This is the most uncomfortable
There was that one couch, Hannah. That was
Where I
just
felt
awful.
sorry. I'm
It
like,
was just awful.
How did you? Oh, wow.
It was a hide-a-bed, and it was just everything about it was wrong.
It hurt to sit on.
Yeah, we got rid of that pretty quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but anyway, we would always find good use for stuff, and
in fact, somebody came over because it actually was an upgrade, like visually. But remember, Bob Lindsay came over to our house, sat on the couch, said, "This is so uncomfortable," and he went and got us some used couches that we've had for 15 years.
Yeah.
We finally just they finally just died.
They finally expired.
Yeah, they finally died.
But along those lines, people would give us clothes and toys for our kids, and we had to kind of figure out, how do we deal with this? And I think we came up with some pretty clever ideas, Hannah. For instance, for the younger kids, any cool toys or clothing would go right into their prize bag for them to buy or earn on
That's
payday.
for kids under 8. So they can see their prize bag and go, hey, if you keep working, these are the things you can get on payday.
Well, when it would show up, they'd get really excited about it, and they'd want it right away and be like, no, we're gonna put it here. You can't have it yet. If you do your job every day,
I'll sell it to you for $10.
Yeah, or $5 or whatever it was. Roughly what we'd expect them to pay if they were at a garage sale
or Goodwill.
Exactly. Yeah. And that worked really well. And then for the older kids, for the younger kids, their items would go into a prize bag, and for the older kids, they'd go into the death arena. They'd go into Thunderdome and fight to the death.
No. No. I'd put
Who wants it the most?
I'd put
2 enter, 1 leaves. No. We would.
No. Well, with the girls and clothes, it kind of does seem that way, doesn't it?
They'd all get so excited about it. We'd be like, all right,
you
this clothing item is here in the middle of the Thunderdome.
What's that? The Wizard of Oz, 2 women fighting over a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
The perfect chick flick.
Yes.
Anyway, we do. Yeah, what we would do is
you came up with this. I thought this was really good.
I put it in the because I don't want it getting spread through the house. I hate it when the house gets cluttered. So I put it in the living room. I say, hey guys, I'm going to be going through these clothes in the next hour or 2. If you are interested, you better come. You have to try them on first, though. I won't let you buy them until you try it on. You have to try it on and make a pile of the things that you're interested in, and I'll sell them to you for, and I'd be like $1 per dress. I'd list
garage
the price,
sale
50
prices.
cents for 2 shirts for $1. I'd give them a price, and then they'd pick out the things they were interested in. They'd go get their money, and I'd say, hey, would you like $1 back? If you bought 10 items, go get me 10 items out of your room that you don't want to keep, I'll give you this $1 back. And then I would take their items and put it into the donation bag with any clothes that they didn't buy. Which
was great, Hannah, because there was, first of all, there was less stuff. So anything that kids didn't want, they didn't buy. Which was great because anything that was left over that had been given to us. If they're not
willing to pay $0.25 for it,
then they
don't want it.
And it doesn't belong in our house. And it's a great litmus test for what belongs in the house.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. But secondly, they were also getting rid of things that they didn't want, but replacing it with things that they did. And so it just kept the home organized and clean and non-cluttered.
And it prevented fights because if they bought it, their sister couldn't say, well, you just got that out of the... from so-and-so, from the neighbor, and it's just as much mine as yours. And so having them pay just, 50 cents, $0.25, $1, that puts the fighting it pretty much diminishes the fighting.
Well, no, but that brings up a really good point, and that is where, you should pay for or earn what you get. That's a principle we really agree with. We totally adhere to is you pay for what you get. You earn what you get.
And my dad always told me that, like, you want to pay for things that you get, because if you're getting stuff for free, there
are problems.
Anytime you're accepting something from somebody else, there are strings attached, and they have the right to control you. So whether it's your parents or
your neighbor, your boss.
We had this discussion with our teenage son recently where he had turned 18, he was graduating, and he's like, well, I'm an adult now and I should be allowed to, do all these things, and these family rules shouldn't apply to me anymore.
We're like,
you're absolutely right. You
Yes.
are 18. You are a young adult. However, you're still living at home. It's time to move you out. It's time for you to go because you want this freedom.
Which is healthy. It's a healthy thing.
But you're still living in our house.
But you can't have that freedom if you're accepting free stuff. We were paying for his rent and his gas and his food.
Yeah.
And we're like...
And granted, even though he's moved out, he's not 100%.
No, we're still helping out.
Yeah, we're still helping out. But we're like, okay,
well,
you're going to get a job. You're going to get a job and you're going to start paying for your own food. And you're going to be off there and you're going to be able to start making your own decisions. That's your room. Those are your roommates and those are your dishes and that's your meal you're going to prepare. And so
hopefully we've done a good enough preparing
him.
Yeah.
Now you have a right to make more of these decisions for yourself. And I hope you make good decisions.
And I'm sure he's going to be fine.
Yeah. And he was kind of in shock about it, but
not really, because we've been talking about this for years.
Yeah, but it's what he wanted. It's what he needed and it's what he wanted. And that's the proper way to get it.
I don't think he was in any more shock than any other kid that leaves home for the first time.
Yeah.
Hannah.
So anyway, but back to people giving you stuff.
So there are a couple benefits. One, when the kids buy their stuff, there's an ownership thing. So no one else can say it's theirs. But also, when this same principle applies to when we accept stuff. When people offer us stuff for free, we say... I'd love to. Can I pay you $1?
Yeah, I have to pay you something.
We had a neighbor say, hey, I've got this old broken down lawnmower. Do you guys want it? And I'm like, I would be happy to pay you $50 for that lawnmower.
She's like, oh, no, you can have it for free.
I'm like, no, I insist on paying $50 for it. When I was, years ago, I bought a car from a family member. And they wanted to give it to me. And I'm like, no, I insist on buying it. And I bought it for $1. But it was... What happens when you accept stuff for free? As you said, Hannah, there are always strings attached. Like there's this weird control issue. When you accept something for free from somebody, they have control and power over you. And the neat thing about paying for it, even if it's $1, is it cuts that tie.
Yeah.
And so that $1 that I paid for the car, it was now mine. I only paid $1 for a car. Now it was in really bad shape, but still, $1. You had the same experience though with. Similar.
I've actually made several mistakes in that arena because I used to be like, people are cleaning out their garage and they're giving me their old stuff. And I'd be like, sure, yeah, I'll take that off your hands and whatnot. And I didn't think anything of it because I'm like, oh, I'm doing them a favor. And yeah, it's great. I can go through the stuff. It's work for me, but it's a benefit to me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think anything of it. So it didn't occur to me to pay for it. And since then, I've had several experiences where people have given me free stuff and it's come back to be, and I've realized that it's a control issue where maybe a friend gave me something and gave me her old... Whatever. I didn't ask for it.
I didn't need
it, but gave it to me. But later, when we didn't agree on something, that was held over my head. How could you... you have to agree with me. You have to go along with me because I gave you that stuff. And I'm like, so I owe you? But I did.
Because we didn't pay for it.
Because we didn't pay for it. And all of a sudden, it was like I was subservient or...
Well, no, here was the frustrating part, Hannah. You had actually done her a favor, this friend.
Yeah.
Because she didn't have to drive all the way down to Goodwill. She didn't have to go through donation. You were an easier... She basically unloaded her garage on you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't stuff you needed or wanted.
But it was still held over my head later.
She was giving you her junk.
But this more than one person has done this to me. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm like, okay, if I just had paid $1, $5, whatever I had in my purse, and just said, no, I insist, it would have cut that ownership a tie. Now, granted, okay, so think about it. You're like, well, what if I want to give somebody something and I don't want them to feel that way, but I want to help them out? Or I know I've had other people where they'll leave stuff and the nice stuff and go, hey, this is for your family, but they do it anonymously.
Right.
So then there aren't any strings because they can't later go, I gave you that. I was the person who left that at your door. That's anonymous.
If they do that, though, you say, oh, well, I'm the one that dumped it in the garbage.
So, no. Anyway, so my recommendation is if in any way possible, you either make them cookies or pay them something.
Repay the
them
kindness.
in some way preferably with $1 or $5 or, whatever you feel is appropriate.
So you had all those pregnancy clothes that you were basically gifted. And what did you do?
Well, no, I actually asked on an online forum, hey, does anybody have pregnancy clothes they're getting rid of that I could have? I was on a really tight budget, and I did not have any maternity clothes. And so 2 ladies, I drove all the way out to wherever they were, and they gave me their nice maternity clothes. They were in really good condition, and I actually I bought some mints and some mint candies, just for a couple bucks, and wrote them a thing, say, hey, your kindness meant a lot to me, and but it was something of something. If I could have paid for it, that would have been better, but $10 or $5, but I also didn't know what was going to be in the bags. I just took them. I'm like, I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to use any of this, but because, they might not fit me.
Right.
But anyway, just something, but try not to accept things for free. When you're in the position where you have to accept stuff for free, that's one of the hard things is people will sometimes
hold it
over your head or treat you like you're subservient in some way. And so if you're able to pay even $1 for it, do it. And if you're not willing to pay $1 for it, just say, you know what? We're not able to use this right now.
And there's nothing wrong with saying that.
Yeah. I
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for thinking of me and my family, but we actually are not in the position to, we can't take this right now. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Please keep us in mind in the future. But then that begs the question, what if it's a present that you don't want, or you don't want your kids to have?
Yeah. So
and we've had that experience too.
One Easter, one of our kids, they were at an Easter egg hunt thing, and they got an Easter egg, and found an Easter egg, and
some big prize. The
grand prize was they won an Xbox. And I have a personal vendetta against video games. It's a problem I have. They have rubbed me the wrong way since I was a teenager.
You desire to smash all video games.
I do. And I can't stand the sound of them, the sight of them, or the look on people's face while they're playing them. It just
Atari.
bothers me.
For some reason, Atari.
No, that was when I was really little.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know any better.
Okay.
Anyway, it's just something about me, and it's not something I wanted my kids to have. And so what do? We said, thank you. Wow.
Very gracious. Thank you.
I can't believe it.
What a gift. Wow.
And then without missing a beat, we regifted it to somebody that we knew really wanted it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so that's a gift, maybe it goes against our family values or some of our policies in our home, or what if somebody were to give our kids, a TV or a movie, we'd be like, thank you. But mom and I, we're the ones that we control all the media in the home.
Yeah.
But what if it's something you actually don't want, maybe it's even something dangerous? And I'll use the example. I think we had somebody give us. Well, let me back up. All gifts
from people outside the family
should go through mom and dad.
So yeah, most people when they give kids
all gifts. Yeah. All gifts to children should go through mom and dad.
All gifts.
All gifts. Not some, not outside the family, not in the neighborhood. No, all gifts to your children should go through mom and dad.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of reasons why.
Well, most people have the sense, if they have a piece of candy, before they even show it to your kid or whatever, they'll be like, hey, would you be okay if I gave you these to give to your kids?
I was at Ace Hardware the other day. We're picking up something for the sprinkler, and I had, I think, Valkyrie and Royal with me. And they were, we always have the kids get dressed and look nice before we go to the store. And I'm there in the checkout line, and they have, the impulse purchase, and they have this really cool array of lollipops. And they're like 50 cents each. And I'm not buying them. I was trying to get in and out. But the lady, the cashier, was there. And she finished ringing me up, and I was like, $5. I pay the $5, and she goes, would it be okay if I gave your kids lollipops? I said, absolutely. But she had the sense to ask me, the dad, rather than grabbing the lollipops and handing them to my kids. She said, hey, Dad, would it be okay if I gave your kids lollipops?
And she went through the proper channel.
And I think most people have that sense, but
they have that sense with little things for some reason, but sometimes bigger gifts, people sometimes don't have that sense, or maybe it's the same people who would just give your kids
I
candy.
don't think everybody has that sense, but I think a lot of people.
I always really appreciate it when they have that sense. I am always like, thank you for asking.
But all gifts should go through mom and dad. You should never let people hand stuff directly to your kids.
We've made this mistake too.
And if they do. If they do try to give your kids directly something, you intercept it and say, "Wow, thank you very much. We'll put this in their prize bag for them. They're going to love it." Mm-hmm. And that way, it kind of bridges the gap. You're not offending the person. Like, you don't slap their hand and say, "How dare you touch my child and give them something without my permission?" No, you just go, "Oh wow, thank you. That's awesome. We're going to put that in their prize bag. They're going to love it."
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that you've mitigated the problem.
And you can even say to your kid, "Hey, Aunt so-and-so got you this, and we're going to put it in your prize bag."
And you can earn it.
And you get to earn it, and they'll go, "Yay!" Whatever.
And it works really well. But if it's something that you don't want your kids to have, you can also intercept and say, "Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We're going to put that in the garbage can." No. We'll say,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You can say
that is very thoughtful of you.
Wow. Yeah.
So just intercept it.
Yeah. You can still say thank you. That's not a lie, because it was very thoughtful.
But you need to make sure, you need to insist that, they hand the item directly to you, not to the kids directly. But there's also a safety issue why you would want to do this, why you would want to make sure that all gifts go through you, the parent. Matter of fact, this is huge.
Yeah.
A few years ago, we had an experience with an older gentleman who offered one of our kids a smartphone. And this was right when smartphones had come out, and there wasn't a whole lot of data about how they work and the effect they have on people. And we now know in our own family, but also collectively as a society, that smartphones are dangerous. There's a lot of problems that can come from smartphone abuse. But we didn't know at the time. And this older gentleman said, "Hey, you know what? I've got this smartphone. I work in technology. I'm always getting these things. I refurbish them.
Yeah.
And I'd like to give your son, daughter a smartphone for free, so they can learn how to be safe on this new technology, and it's really exciting."
So they can learn it, and they'll be safer because they'll have a phone.
What ended up happening, though, was that because it was free, he still kind of had like ownership of it, and it got weird really fast.
And he insisted on setting it up with our kids, and
then coming over multiple times to check on it. And then finally, when we decided, you know what, we wisened up and we're like, you know what, this isn't what we want for our children with the smartphone. And we tried to delete the accounts and get rid of the phone. He showed up at our door. "Hey, I need to see that phone now." And we're like, it's not yours. You don't have a right to it. You gave it to us. But because we hadn't paid for it, because we just accepted it for free as a gift, there was still that mentality that he somehow owned it. And here's the thing, if we had paid $5 for it, wouldn't have been an issue. If we paid $1 for this stupid phone, it would not have been an issue. We'd say, "Hey, no, it's mine. I bought it." End of discussion. But because he had given it to us, there was still this mentality that he had partial ownership.
But even though he had asked our permission, it was him having this direct relationship with our kids. Like, I'm giving you presents, and I can give you more presents, and it made it a really uncomfortable
It was this ownership
situation
thing. It was,
where even to the point where he had set up a whole bunch of accounts, and then when we tried just deleting the accounts, because we realized too much of their personal information had gone out onto the internet, and it wasn't actually safe, and we tried deleting the accounts.
No. What happened was an 8x10 glossy showed up in the mail from this individual of our child, and we're like, whoa.
It just was weird.
Time
the
out.
Whole thing was weird. It was giving us the willies. And anyway, but my husband had been out of town.
Who?
Oh, you had been out of town. You weren't there. You weren't seeing what was going on. All I said when I came back is, "I hate those phones." And you put an end to it. You realized things were weird. And then you actually got very upset because it actually wasn't safe. A lot of the kids' information, their address, their pictures, their names were out on the internet. They were very young. And you were like, what in the world? And so you went and shut the accounts down.
Mm-hmm.
It was 10 o'clock at night. 10:15, we get a text. Why are you shutting down your kids' accounts? It's like...
From this older gentleman.
You don't have the right to control my children.
Or their media.
Or their
personal information.
We said, hey, well, we just don't feel good about this. That it's ready. So we closed down the accounts. Found out later he reinstated them.
Yeah.
Because he felt like he was in control. So that's kind of an extreme example, but at the same time, this happens.
Yeah.
This happens. And so, and this is the world we live in where, I don't know what was going on there, but there are child predators. There are, and giving your kids gifts for free, it should always, always, always go through you, the parent. And when it's a gift to the kid, you want to cut those strings. You want to cut those strings of control.
Like I said, multiple reasons. There's the control issue. There's the ownership issue. But you bring up a really good point. There's a safety issue. Yeah. And it's really sad that this sort of problem exists. But yes, predators, child predators, that's their MO, to give kids gifts. That's why
and we don't know what if this guy just had really bad OCD or what, but it could easily have been.
Why would you risk it?
It could easily have been.
It's so much better just to stop it in its tracks and make sure all the gifts go through you, the parents. Well, no, that's why in all the little children's books there's the nasty old witch living in the candy house.
Yeah, giving away the candy.
So to trick the kids into trusting them.
Think of free iPhones as candy now.
Pretty much.
The modern day candy. So once again, you can learn from our mistakes in that arena and set up the boundaries so you don't have problems like that. Like you can avoid problems like that.
But we didn't not only have that problem with our younger kids, we had that problem with one of our older kids where a predatory adult offered one of our older kids a cell phone and a car.
Yeah.
And we're like, without talking to us at all and going directly to our child.
That was a horror story right there. And,
yes, it was.
And
what a nightmare. What an absolute nightmare.
So we're just warning you.
And this person did not have our child's best interest at heart at all.
No, they were definitely 100%
predatory adult.
Predatory. So you've got to be really careful
who you let give your kids gifts. It's just
who your kids associate with and who your kids work for, who your kids. Yeah, you have to be careful.
So,
which
brings us to the topic of grandparents.
Yeah. All right.
No, but so those are kind of our thoughts about that first group of people we talked about who give your kids gifts, whether it's neighbors or friends or associations or coworkers, where these are people, maybe their intents are pure, but it simplifies
we have a
everything.
Policy in our family that the gifts always have to go through us because we want our kids to be safe.
And it simplifies everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
And
pay $1. If somebody gives you a bag of clothes, say, "Wow, that's so nice. Here's $1."
Yeah.
And if they refuse, what do you say, Hannah?
I insist.
Yeah.
I don't feel good about just.
Oh, we have a family policy.
We have to pay for the things
we pay for the things we get.
If we.
It's only $1. Go buy yourself an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, but I insist on paying you $1 or or $5 or $10, whatever it is.
People respect it when you say, "This is our policy. This is our boundary. This is our."
Are they really going to get mad you offer to pay them $1?
Yeah, you must accept it. Yep. I insist.
Thank you. Though.
And if you're super worried, go give it to the homeless man on the corner there.
Yep.
So
that's the first group, is friends, neighbors, coworkers, people you associate with. And we have totally run out of time. So this is going to have to be a two-parter. We'll pick up on grandparents and what to do with them in our next podcast, because it's a big deal. You were saying it, Hannah, that they're your parents. Like there's a much stronger connection there. And we think we have some pretty solid ideas on what to do there and kind of how to deal with that. As always, if you like what you hear on this podcast, please tell your friends. Let them know. They might want to listen too. And if you have suggestions for a future podcast, go to our website under support, click contact us, send us an email, and we'll get right on it. And that's it. That's it for today. enjoy some seriously smooth sounds from Falcon Jasper. We'll see you next time.